everyone and welcome to another video. So first of all, today I'm filming in a different location. My lovely bookshelves are not behind me, but that is because Ewan is distracting Puppy for me, so I can actually film without clattering and whining and general chaos in the background. So I'm sitting in the bedroom and I just thought we'd have a chat here about what we're going to talk about today. So something that's kind of bothered me lately is how I'm rating books. And I keep kind of changing my mind on ratings and how I'm going to be rating them. I've always rated on gut feeling, but obviously your feeling one day is different from your feeling another day. And then you could rate something 4-star and then something else is 4-star and you're like, well, I don't know, is there a big enough should there be difference between them? Should they not? Why am I rating a book a certain way over another way? I'm not sure. So I was having a look at some fellow booktuber videos to see how other people were rating, just to compare to myself. And obviously a lot of people do rate based on gut feeling, which is fine. I've done it for years and I still kind of do it. You know what, like you pick up a book and you kind of already know as you're reading it where it's lying. For me, I pick up a book and everything kind of starts off at like a 3-star rating, and then either does better or worse from there. Some booktubers I know don't even give star ratings anymore because they hate the way that they work, and then that's kind of frustrating because you're like, you kind of want a general idea of where that sits on a person's kind of enjoyment. With the end of last year, I started using the story graph, which I really like because it gives the 1/2-star options or even 1/4-star options. So you can put a little bit more thought into what divides up like a 3-star from a 4-star, and it made you think a bit more about, you know, your rating process, which was great. But to be honest, instead of satisfying that for me, it's made me want to look more into it and think about further ways of rating. So one of the channels that I watch is The Book's Nest, and she rates her books using CAWPILE. And she always spoke about using CAWPILE or running her books through CAWPILE. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. I'm so confused. And then I finally realised that it's from the Book Roast or Book Roast's channel. She created CAWPILE, the rating system, kind of a spreadsheet. I will link her channel down below, and the video I'm talking about, she just did a recent one where she made like an updated version of the spreadsheet and she explains everything on all of her videos. It's great. It's a really cool system. So CAWPILE stands for characters, atmosphere, writing style, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment. And what you do is you rate each of those factors out of 10 and then basically calculate an average, which will give you, give you your number. And then she has created like a little table of where she would put each kind of number range into star ratings and reserving your 5 stars for like things that are like, I think it's like 9 or 10 out of 10 kind of area, and breaking it down. So I would highly recommend you go over to her channel where she explains everything. She goes into so much detail, and I've literally spent the last like little while watching all of her CAWPILE related videos. There's 2 or 3 of them now. And she does explain it so well, and she's put so much effort into it, which is just fantastic. So I thought, okay, this gives me some other way of being mindful of how I'm rating and not just being like, oh, I feel like it's a 3-star or I feel like this is a 5-star. I'm like, why? Why is this a 5-star? What is it that I like about it? So I can tell people more what were the strong points, what were the weak points. And it's not like you're losing the gut feeling rating either, because in the video she kind of explains that the enjoyment rating, the last number you generate, is kind of like your 5-star rating, but instead it's out of 10. So you are still kind of getting to put that gut feeling thing in there, because usually your gut feeling is to do with enjoyment, for fiction anyway. So you're getting your chance to put that in there. So I decided what I'm going to do before I just adopt this method, I wanted to try it out on a few of my recent reads to see if I've rated any of them wrongly. Is there anything that I've rated, and if I run it through CAWPILE and put numbers in there, will I get a different number? Or is my gut feeling along the same kind of lines? And like part of me is like, well, I don't want it to be too different, because then I'm like, I don't know if I'll feel comfortable with the reviews that I'm giving. If I'm generating these star ratings through the numbers that don't really resonate with me. I'm too much of a gut feeling person to really be okay with that. But equally, there's another side of me that wants sort of a statistical backup for my reviews as well, and not just I felt like this on a Monday, you know. And that's kind of how I was feeling. And there was a few times when I'm actually having to sit and give reviews and like hold up what I'm reading of each month and say why. I'm like, how much do I feel about this? There's a few books where I was like, I'll start off giving it this, and then I've changed my mind and I thought it over, and then I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I just want to have a bit more of a clear idea of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I've picked 5 of my recent reads, and in particular ones that sort of stuck in my head, so that I can genuinely think back and be like, right, okay, the characters were deserving of this mark, and the plot was deserving of this mark, and this is what the writing style did for me. I wanted to kind of have something recent and fresh in my mind, but something that stuck with me as well, so that I wasn't just kind of throwing numbers about willy-nilly. I didn't want to wait until I'd read 5 books this year to actually try it out, because I've been very slow starting this year, having only completed 1 book, and it is currently the 27th of January. So yeah, I didn't want to wait until I'd actually read 5 books this year, so I decided to take some from December's pile and have kind of a mix of ratings and see what happens when I run it through CAWPILE. So the books that I'm choosing to run through CAWPILE to kind of see whether my gut feeling ratings kind of is along the same lines as CAWPILE or not is my only completed read for January is It Only Happens in the Movies by Holly Bourne, Dead Girl Walking by Roberta Gately, Thoroughly Whipped by Tilly Cole, Truly Madly Guilty by Leanne Moriarty, and Our Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent, all the last few I read in December. I'm going to go through what ratings I gave the books and then run the things through CAWPILE and give my marks for characters, atmosphere, writing style, plot, intrigue, logic and enjoyment, and see how they compare. The books that I've chosen rate between 2-star rating and a 5-star rating, because I wanted to kind of have a bit of a spread across the board to see how my ratings really looked. So we'll go in terms of rating. So the book that I rated on gut feeling, that I rated 2-star, was Dead Girl Walking by Roberta Gately. And I really wasn't that big of a fan of this book. I thought that there was bits and pieces that could have been improved on. It had a good premise, it could have been improved on, but the execution of the idea wasn't for me, and I just found the characters just dreadful, and I just wasn't really a fan. So I didn't truly hate it, so I didn't give it a 1-star, but it definitely was far away from being average. It was below average in my opinion, so I gave it a 2-star. So through running it through CAWPILE and marking for all the separate options, I worked all that out, ran it through CAWPILE, got my averages, the star rating came out as 2 stars. So I was like, okay, that's fair. It's come out, when I break it down, it's come out the same as what I kind of rated it anyway. Moving on to the 3-star book, this was Truly Madly Guilty by Leanne Moriarty. And I had a really tough time rating this book. I withered between everything between a 2.5 to a 3.5. I really felt this book was average. In places, there were some parts of it that were kind of pushing on to like the 3.5, and I think I settled on a 3, just bang kind of in the middle of the 3 rating possibilities. But I did find it quite difficult to rate this book, so I was curious about how this one was going to come out as. So breaking my ratings down for that one again, it came out as 3 stars. So I was like, okay, maybe I did rate that correctly. I was quite happy that it came out the same again. So in this, I also kept 2 4-star books. Because I didn't really, the only 1-star that I read in December was a non-fiction book, and that doesn't really fit into this spreadsheet. I'll come back to that later. So my 2 4-star books were Our Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent and Thoroughly Whipped by Tilly Cole. I rated them both 4-star on gut feeling, but if I was to put them side by side in my head, I would have said Thoroughly Whipped was like a stronger 4-star than Our Little Cruelties. That's what my gut feeling was kind of telling me. So I put them through CAWPILE. It came out to the rating of 4 stars, which I was happy with that. When I first read the book, I was kind of almost like I wanted to give it 5 stars, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I think it's a 4-star. So I'm quite happy that this came out as a 4-star, because I'm like, that kind of backs up that I was like, I wanted to give it 5 stars more because I adore the author and I want all of her stuff to be 5-star. But I think I feel kind of, you know, it's good to know that the numbers kind of also agree with me that it was a 4-star, if that makes sense. So go to the other 4-star read. Our Little Cruelties had a very similar breakdown to Thoroughly Whipped, which is to be expected. I also rated that a 4-star and I highly enjoyed it. But Our Little Cruelties came out higher than Thoroughly Whipped, which is not what I would have said on gut feeling. But then maybe my gut feeling is kind of biased by the fact that Tilly Cole is definitely one of my favourite authors. So maybe I put that higher in my mind because I wanted it to be higher? I'm not sure. So obviously they've come out with a very similar score overall, but there is a difference, and it is different to what my gut feeling was. So I found that interesting. So the last book was my 5-star rating. It only happens in the movies by Holly Bourne. This is the only book I've completed in 2021. I highly enjoyed it. It got me out of my reading slump, and I was just like, oh my God, this is fantastic, wonderful, 5 stars, excellent. So I ran it through CAWPILE, and obviously it got very, very high marks. So I run it all through and I get my average, and it's a 4, not a 5. And I was really surprised, actually, to start with, that this book came out as a 4 and not a 5. And then I was like, actually, hold on. Am I really that shocked? Is the book fantastic? Absolutely. Absolutely. But were there bits in it could have been made better? Were there bits in it where I would have preferred to be slightly different? There were bits and pieces I would have tweaked, which means it's not an outstanding book. It's not perfect to me. So like, you know, it's very, very, very good. It's a 4-star. And when I thought about it further, I went back to my rating on the story graph, which allows half marks, and I actually gave it 4.5 stars on the story graph, not 5. So realistically, in my head, it is the high 4-star that it is. It's not quite a 5. And I forgot that I rated it slightly differently on the story graph because I could. I just went back and checked them on Goodreads. So I was like, actually, this is fair enough. It is a high 4-star and not quite a 5. So that was a really interesting little experiment. I went through these 5 books and put them through. So it's definitely a system that I'm interested in continuing to use. I like the fact that it is fitting in with what my gut feeling kind of tells me, but equally I like the fact it makes me think about why I like books particularly, not just here's what I'm feeling. So I kind of feel like I get to have a bit of both in there. I like that they kind of meet, but I also liked it kind of had slight changes to what I would have thought as well, because it made me realise maybe it is worth using a slightly different system. Plus, I'm a little bit of a geek and I really enjoy using these kinds of things. I have a fancy new spreadsheet thanks to Book Roast. You can download her spreadsheet if you follow the link in her description box for her video. So I've got this spreadsheet now on my laptop that I can play with, and I find that fun. So this is kind of a fun thing for me to do as well. So I will carry on for the rest of the year using CAWPILE and seeing how much I enjoy it. If I do enjoy it, I will continue to use it. And if I get bored, I'll stop. But so far, I think it'll be a fun thing for me to use. The one drawback for CAWPILE is that it's really well suited to fiction books, but not non-fiction books. And I actually find non-fiction books really hard to rate, because you can't just have a gut feeling on enjoyment kind of rating, you know? I don't often enjoy non-fiction in the way that I would enjoy fiction, if that makes sense. Sometimes things can be really mind-blowing and you're like, okay, well, I didn't enjoy it, but it really like opened my mind. It can be thought-provoking. Or, say maybe the topic wasn't that interesting, but the way it was delivered was really, really good. There was a 1-star book that I read in December. It was a non-fiction. It was the one I mentioned earlier. So I would have said, her book, I didn't enjoy, the information in it. I didn't think it was very informative. I didn't enjoy my reading experience of it. It didn't bring anything new to the fold, or it didn't make me think of anything differently. I kind of just thought she was a bit nuts. But I would have said the delivery of the book was really, really good. I liked her style, and I thought that that was a really good aspect of the book, for example. So it's kind of made me think of trying to come up with a system for rating my non-fiction books. So it's very much a work in progress, but I'm trying to come up with a way of rating my non-fiction books to take into account different aspects, the same way CAWPILE does. I'm sure someone else has already done this, but I'm kind of just making my own little attempt to make my own version. So basically hijacking the spreadsheet. I'm using the same calculating of averages that the Book Roast is doing. I'm keeping the way that our star ratings are set out. I don't feel the need to tweak any of those. And I decided what I'm going to do from going forward is when I read a non-fiction book, I'm going to rate them on 4 categories: how informative they are, how well the information was delivered, how thought-provoking it was, or how much it kind of opened my mind to a new issue. I am going to have a little bit of enjoyment on the end there, because some non-fiction books are genuinely just a bit more fun to read than others. So I'm going to go with these 4 categories for now and see if this makes it easier for me to rate non-fiction books. Like I say, I'm still gonna have a gut feeling because the gut feeling comes anyway. I don't put thought into that. I read a book and I have a feeling of what it's going to be. I'm going to see if I run it through those 4 categories, what that means for my rating. Like I say, I'm sure someone else has come up with a non-fiction rating system. But as Book Rose said when she was talking about CAWPILE, it's difficult to see what different people would want from a non-fiction book. So those 4 categories I mentioned are what came in my head when I had a little brainstorm of what I'm looking for in a non-fiction book. So that could be different for other people, whereas with fiction books, it's a lot easier to set the criteria. So that's a bit of a ramble about that. I'm going to have a go at that for the next little while and see how I feel, maybe tweak it here and there to see if there's anything else that comes into my head as far as non-fiction goes. I'm going to go ahead and keep on using CAWPILE for the way I rate my books in 2021. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was really fun for me to make, and it was fun for me to kind of run my books through a different system and have a wee little experiment. That was really good fun. If you like stats videos and things like that, then maybe you'll enjoy this one. Other people might just think it's dull. Sorry if you do. I found it interesting. Anyway, check out Book Roast's channel if you haven't done so already, and maybe check out CAWPILE if you haven't done so. I had a really good time kind of figuring out more about it and learning about it, so have a wee look and see if it's something you'd be interested in. That's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch up with you again very, very soon. Bye!